I get it, you've probably spent a few evenings scrolling through specs, watching YouTubers hype the newest RTX 4080 laptops, and still feel that knot in your stomach because the last thing you want is to drop a couple $1,000s on a machine that ends up sitting half idle on your desk. The fear of overpaying for a future-proof laptop that you'll barely use for more than a handful of games is real, especially when you consider how fast the hardware landscape shifts. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and I'm here to walk through what the Thunderobot 016 actually brings to the table, where it shines, and where it might leave you wishing you'd taken a different route. First off, the Thunderobot 016 is trying to position itself as a no-compromise gaming rig, a 16-inch QHD Plus panel running at 240 Hz, a 14th Gen Intel i9-14900HX, an RTX 4080, 32GB of DDR5 RAM, and a 1TB SSD, all tucked into a chassis that looks more like a sleek workstation than a traditional gaming bulk. That's a lot of power on paper, but the real test is how it behaves once you fire up your favorite titles, edit footage, or just binge watch on the side. If you're the type of gamer who spends most of their week in demanding AAA releases, think Cyberpunk 2077, Elden Ring, or the latest Battlefield, and you also dabble in video editing or 3D rendering, the 016 is built for you. The RTX 4080, paired with the i9-14900HX, handles 1440p ultra settings without breaking a sweat. In my own testing, Shadow of the Tomb Raider stayed comfortably above 120 frames per second at max settings, and the 240 Hz screen actually showed the difference when you toggled the frame rate cap. The 32GB of DDR5 isn't just a marketing number. When you launch a 12-track audio project in Adobe Audition while a game runs in the background, there's no stutter, and the system stays responsive. That level of multitasking is where the AI-driven power claim starts to feel concrete. Thunderobot's firmware appears to allocate GPU and CPU resources dynamically, so you don't have to manually tweak power plans. Now, let's talk about the display. The QHD plus 2.5K panel is bright enough for a sunny apartment, and the 240 Hz refresh rate is a genuine benefit if you're playing fast-paced shooters. The color accuracy out of the box is decent for gaming, but if you're a content creator who needs precise sRGB or DCI-P3 coverage, you'll likely want to spend a few minutes calibrating. The upside is that the panel's response time is low enough to keep motion blur at bay, which is something you notice in competitive titles like Valorant. On the flip side, the screen does consume a noticeable chunk of battery. Expect to be tethered to power during longer sessions, which is typical for a laptop with that GPU. One of the hidden trade-offs is the thermal design. Thunderobot has gone for a fairly aggressive cooling system with dual fans and multiple heat pipes, and in most cases it keeps temperatures under control. However, under sustained loads, say a 30-minute marathon in Red Dead Redemption 2, the CPU can push past 95 degrees before throttling kicks in. The fans crank up to a level that's audible, especially in a quiet room, so if you value a whisper-quiet environment, you might need to accept that noise or invest in a cooling pad. It's not a deal-breaker for most gamers, but it's worth noting if you plan to game late at night in an apartment building. Storage-wise, the 1TB NVMe SSD offers snappy load times. Games that used to take a minute to boot now load in 1015 seconds. The downside is that there's no easy second M.2 slot, so expanding storage means either swapping out the existing drive or using an external USB-C SSD, which can be a minor inconvenience if you anticipate a massive library of large-size games. On the other hand, the 32GB of RAM means you won't feel the need to upgrade that side anytime soon, and the DDR5 speed gives you a bit of future-proofing for applications that can leverage it. Connectivity is solid, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2, and a decent selection of ports, including a Thunderbolt 4 connection that lets you daisy-chain a 4K monitor or fast external drives. If you're a streamer, the built-in webcam is only 720p, so you'll probably want to plug in a higher-resolution USB camera. The keyboard is RGB backlit with decent travel, which is nice for those late-night sessions, but the layout is a bit cramped for users with larger hands, especially the Aero cluster. It's not a fatal flaw, just something to try out in person if you can. Who should walk away? If your primary use case is casual gaming at 1080p, or you're on a tighter budget, the 016 is overkill. You could get a more modest RTX 3070 laptop for a fraction of the price and still enjoy smooth gameplay at 1440p. Also, if you travel a lot and need a lightweight machine, the 016's chassis, while sleek, adds a few extra ounces compared to ultra-portable alternatives, and the need to stay plugged in for long sessions could become